Secret doesn't generally mean homicide. From weird animals to strange guests and stories of rebirth, there is something out there for everybody. On this rundown are 10 such puzzles to boggle the mind and touch off the imagination. On the 20th of May 1916, 3 fatigued figures faltered up to a whaling station on the north shore of South Georgia. Ernest Shackleton, Frank Worsley and Tom Crean had strolled for 1.5 days constant to discover help to protect their group who were stuck on the opposite side of the island just as Elephant Island. The excursion was slippery, as they needed to cross rocky districts with just a rope and hatchet as help. Their boldness was remunerated when they in the long run discovered assistance at Stromness and all the abandoned men were rescued. Only half a month after the occurrence, did the 3 men acknowledge they all shared a similar peculiar encounter for all intents and purpose. Every one of them had felt a weird nearness during their excursion, nearly as if someone else had joined their salvage exertion. Every one of the 3 men described how they felt this nearness strolling close by them until they came to Stromness, whereafter it vanished. Shackleton, specifically, was shaken by the experience and didn't care for discussing it. Many speculations have been introduced for what the 3 men experienced, for example, a common fantasy, neurological clutters and reactions of high portions of recommended medication. In any case, exactly what occurred while they were on their outing and who or what went with them on it, stays a mystery. In 1996, specialists found an exceptional grave close Colchester, Essex. It was assessed that the man inside the grave would have undoubtedly kicked the bucket during the Roman intrusion or between 40–60 AD. The entombment chamber was developed altogether out of wood, and contained a shroud hung with clinical instruments including surgical blades, needles and retractors. In expansion to this, metal shafts, a fly dot and herbs including mugwort were found. There was even a chess board close by the remaining parts. It is obscure, in any case, who the man may have been, in spite of the fact that specialists accept he could have either been an old druid, or a specialist. There is just a single Roman record on the Druids of Britain, gave by Tacitus, and it stays hard to effectively recognize Druid relics and stays here. In this manner, the genuine personality of the man in the interment chamber will probably never be known. Archaeologists unearthing entombments at Solango in Ecuador somewhere in the range of 2014 and 2016 made a confusing revelation that they still can't seem to discover a clarification for. Among the entombments were the remaining parts of 2 babies wearing caps produced using kids' skulls. It was discovered that the skulls were likely positioned over the newborn children's heads while there was still substance on them, with one of them having their face pointing through the cranial vault. There was additionally a little bone held up between the newborn child's head and the skull covering it. The archaeologists have no clarification for the skulls covering the leaders of the babies, albeit one hypothesis recommends it might have been for insurance as indicated by antiquated custom. While is it likewise not comprehended what prompted the passings of the newborn children and youngsters, their bones reflected malnourishment. This is thought to have been brought about by a volcanic emission in the region that may have prompted a lack of food. These discoveries have without a doubt, as of late been distributed and more proof is required for any of the speculations to be demonstrated as correct. Alan and Christine Tate adored their Ammanford house in Wales until June 2018. Christine was making espresso late one night, when she got mindful of bizarre commotions radiating from the house. She called her significant other and the 2 of them attempted to set up where the clamors were coming from. They heard flushing clamors, running machines, a bike and incorporeal screams. Eventually they understood the sounds were originating from the storm cellar situated underneath the kitchen. Alan dove into the dividers and embedded recorders to attempt to discover what could be causing the commotions. The gear recorded police alarms, a female shouting, yelping hounds and a vehicle horn. Christine is of the conviction that there are individuals living down in the storm cellar and that the sounds might be connected to human dealing or even a medication lab. In any case, police have not discovered any proof of this. Meanwhile, Christine and Alan are too terrified to even think about returning to their home and are venturing to every part of the UK attempting to discover somebody who can assist them with comprehending the mystery. U.G. Griffith was en route to his home in Van Meter, Iowa on the 29th of September 1903 when he saw a focus on a structure which he had never observed. Strolling towards the structure, the light hopped to another rooftop before vanishing into the dimness. Recounting to the story the following day, individuals were listening attentively on the grounds that Griffith had been a regarded resident of Van Meter. On the 30th of September, the town's PCP, Dr. Alcott, woke up to a light emission sparkling into his face in the early hours of the morning. Running outside with his gun, thinking there were interlopers on his property, Dr. Alcott solidified to the spot when he found before him an enormous humanoid animal with monstrous wings and a horn on its head. The horn was radiating a surge of brilliant light into his home. Dr. Alcott shot the animal multiple times, yet the beast didn't flicker. The specialist at that point ran back inside, and when he thought back, the animal had disappeared. On the 1st of October, additionally in the early hours, Bank Chief Clarence Dunn strolled to the bank where he worked with the uncomfortable inclination that the ongoing beast sightings may have been burglars attempting to occupy the townsfolk while arranging to ransack the spot. He bolted himself inside the structure, gripping a shotgun for insurance. Soon after 12 p.m., Dunn heard an unusual panting commotion. At that point a brilliant light shone into the bank and Dunn could see a figure outside. He discharged the shotgun at the figure, and it fled. Afterward, he would discover impressions with just 3 toe prints outside the bank. More individuals saw the animal, including J. L. Platt Jr., who experienced it at the passage to a deserted coal mine shaft. He likewise observed a littler comparable-looking animal remaining close to the huge one. Taking shots at them by and by had no impact. The people group at that point chose to block the passage to the mine and the animals were never observed again. Was this only an unnerving story that had the entire town anxious, or did Van Meter's inhabitants see something powerful? Over 100 years ago, on a 45-degree slant, base under 4 feet, in Mahabalipuram, India, rests a gigantic rock more than 250 tons, named Krishna's Butterball. The manner in which the rock is roosted makes it look as if it moved down the slope and by one way or another halted directly before plunging right down. Gravity has not had the option to move it, neither has the pushes of vacationers who attempt to get it to roll further down. It is imagined that the stone is an ice sheet sporadic, yet it is obscure why it halted where it did. As indicated by Hindu folklore, in any case, the incredible god Krishna was amazingly enamored with eating margarine when he was only a newborn child, and in light of the fact that the rock has an orangey tint, it is accepted by some that it is in actuality a bit of spread dropped by Krishna. Subsequently the name, Krishna's Butterball, in 2016, a high-pitched screeching sound in Forest Grove fired, keeping individuals up around evening time and making hounds bark unendingly. Occupants depicted the sound as vehicle brakes shrieking, an alarm sounding, and even a banshee yelling into the wind. Some recorded the sounds to replay later and give figure a shot what the reason might be. Speculations went from a break in a pipeline, an alarm, or a train shrieking to an end. None of these speculations worked out. The clamor proceeded and was heard at a few areas in Forest Grove. A material science educator at the nearby college attempted to find the wellspring of the sound by nailing all the areas to a Google map of the zone. There was no example in any case, and the puzzle remained. Residents began getting blue a gasket, and speculations began including apparitions, Bigfoot, outsiders, and the sky as the limit from there. The story flowed on news channels and the sound proceeded. At that point, one night the sound was observably missing and stayed away forever. It stays obscure what caused the piercing commotion and why it stopped similarly as suddenly as it started. Hanan Mansour was conceived during the 30s in Lebanon. She wedded Farouk Mansour when she was just 20 years of age and proceeded to have 2 girls, Layla and Galare. Not long after the introduction of her subsequent kid, Hanan was determined to have coronary illness and was cautioned to not have additional kids. Regardless of this, she had a child in 1962. Her sibling kicked the bucket in 1963, and before long, Hanan began getting sick. She talked a great deal of passing on and disclosed to her better half she would return after death. Hanan was 36 when she kicked the bucket in the wake of having heart medical procedure. She attempted ineffectively to phone her little girl, Layla. Before the operation, Suzanne Ganem was brought into the world 10 days after Hanan's demise. Her mom professed to have had a fantasy, before Suzanne was conceived, in which a lady revealed to her she was setting off to go to her. A lot later, Suzanne's mom saw an image of Hanan Mansour and asserted it seemed as though the lady from her dream. Suzanne was just 16 months old when she began pulling at the landline telephone in her parents' home and rehashing the words, "Hi, Layla." Her family was astounded by this as they didn't realize anybody called Layla. As Suzanne developed more established, she disclosed to her folks that Layla was one of her kids from a previous existence. At 2 years old, she referenced each of the 3 of Hanan's kids' names just as Farouk, her folks and brothers. Upon hearing this, the monsters set off to visit Suzanne. While they were together, Suzanne recognized every one of Hanan's family members and disclosed to Farouk that she offered gems to her sibling Hercule before she had her medical procedure. Nobody other than the Monser family had thought about this.